What's up, podcast listeners? It's Andy and Drew here, back with a fresh and exciting episode. We are at episode 35 of the What's Up Casselberry podcast. We're happy to have you today, and we hope that you enjoy our casual conversations about the community of Casselberry as well as Seminole County and Central Florida as a whole. Andy and I get together once a week on Tuesday mornings to enjoy just a time of conversation, and we hope that you find the information not only informational but inspiring as you go about your week seeking to be a more engaged and involved citizen. Andy, my friend, welcome.
Hey, Drew, how are you? Just to clarify what you said we get together for a conversation on Tuesday mornings, and because we released this at 7 a.m., I don't want our listeners thinking that we're up at 5 o'clock on Tuesday morning recording this, because both of us, I believe, like our sleep so much. So we do pre-record.
I wanted to give that mystery, Andy, of you ruined it now, but that's okay. I like folks to feel like, oh, wow, these guys are just this is such a priority for them that they...
That's right. Coming live from the streets of Casselberry at 2 a.m.
Well, that's a good as intro as any. In addition to doing this podcast every week, Andy, we were actually out and about on the town. We were partying in downtown Orlando the other day.
There you go again, Drew, giving a false impression of what's really happening. You make it sound like we're some hip, cool, young, stay-out-all-night folks, where really we went to the soccer game. We moved to the driest place we could in the stadium because we didn't want to get wet, and we left to make home just on time, got home as soon as we can because we had to be up early in the morning. So let's just tell the truth about that one, too.
That's right. Listeners, I guess if you know me, any attempts of Drew trying to look cool or act cool just fails miserably.
I am in the same boat. We need as much help as we can get. But again, I think there's something very cool about us being vulnerable and real as well. But we did have fun. We went to see Orlando City, who at the time of recording are on a MLS club record unbeaten 7-game streak. Hopefully by the time this comes out on Tuesday, we will have not lost in Dallas as well. So we'll be able to say an 8-game streak. But sure is good to see our hometown soccer team doing so well right now.
Absolutely. Love the support for our local hometown team, as you said. Well, Andy, speaking of hometown, let's take our Casselberry in the news segment. We are looking at things all around Casselberry, news, notes, just different things that we've either read or seen or observed. In this case, Andy, I brought this to your attention. You and I have kind of talked off the air about the intersection of 436 and 1792. Now, that is a very frequented intersection. It kind of frames our city. The flyover was built in part to help alleviate some of the traffic issues there, which we're very thankful for our leaders for building that flyover and thinking of traffic patterns. But on that intersection, on that corner, over the past several weeks, if you've driven by, depending on the particular day or time of day, you may have noticed some groups beginning to gather. Andy, we have seen folks predominantly wearing black T-shirts or black shirts with signs that are supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And then on kind of the other side of the street, we see folks with big signs and banners and flags that say vote Donald Trump and support Trump, and Trump train apparently is a thing. Andy, when you think about those groups of individuals, some who are residents of Casselberry, but I would suspect many who are not living in Casselberry, but just chose that intersection because it's busy. What are some of the implications, the potential impacts? What do you note or observe when you drive through that intersection and see those folks there?
Thanks for that question. That's a real easy one to answer. Next week, just give me a yes or no one, will you? Yes. So just to recap, I believe it's every Tuesday, I think maybe between 2 and 6 or something. There are two groups that gather on that intersection. There has been a little bit of pushing and shoving that has gone beyond the what is sadly normal name calling, so much so that the police department have assigned additional officers to man that corner and try and protect all those involved. Yeah, a few thoughts. One, I support people's right to protest and advocate. I think that's good and healthy for our democracy. I think the lives of our Black brothers and sisters matter a whole lot more than our society sometimes says. We need to do all that we can, as we've been very involved in, you and I, in addressing issues of race and reconciliation. But I think my only request was that as we advocate or protest, whichever side of that you're on, that you do so with civility. There have been some ugly pictures that have come out about some conflicts, and that's never a good or satisfying or helpful thing. I am concerned that many of the folks who are doing that are from out of town. I do believe that all politics local, in terms that we're most concerned about politics that affect us. That's not to say we shouldn't be engaged and watching with national politics, but it does unsettle me a little that we got folks from out of town coming into our town to use our town as a place to protest or advocate. So yeah, I respect people's rights. I would ask that they protest peacefully. You know, Drew, we asked the question together, what's our response as we drive by? You know, sometimes you see people, beeping their horns, and maybe that just antagonizes it a little bit more. I thought, what would it look like if maybe one Tuesday we just went out and we took a couple of coolers of cold water and we gave them to the BLM folks and the Trump supporters and just tried to build some relationships? Because at the heart of what makes a community is our ability to listen and love and care and understand for one another. So I don't know if I have the courage to do it, honestly, but whenever we see two parties in disagreement, surely there is an opportunity to bring some reconciliation there. So as I drive by there, as I hear about the stories there from the law enforcement officers, one of the first things in my mind is, hey, what could we do to bring some reconciliation, to bring some peace, create some prosperity within our community through this?
Thank you, Andy. A couple things that you said that I made mental note of. Number one, just again, thankful that we have an engaged and informed local police force, that our Casselberry police is interested in and engaging with our citizens, that this is not a circumstance where a huge riot has broken out, where things are being reactively responded to. The fact that there are now, because it's sort of a known entity, that, as you said, there's even a time that's been sort of designated, whether directly or indirectly, as Tuesday afternoons being that location. Very thankful that our police care about the well-being of those that are out protesting, as well as the citizens of Casselberry at large, and are proactively going and standing in the gap there. So thank you, Chief Krantz and the Casselberry Chief of Police. Andy?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. One, I don't think this is common knowledge, but I've heard about it through my service with the police department in chaplaincy. I know that the chief and some of his senior staff met with the leaders of both those organizations, and he listened to them. He tried to support them. He encouraged them to protest or advocate peacefully. And I was just really impressed that he took time in a way that no one will ever know about, because he's not making a fuss, sat with the leaders and said, hey, you got your rights, we support your rights, but let's handle this the right way. I thought that was very impressive. And also, Drew, let me take this opportunity to point to our next special episode, which comes out on Friday, where we will be hosting the fourth conversation in our series about race and reconciliation. And this is a very special one because it's about law enforcement and race relations. And Chief Krantz is going to be speaking. One of his officers is going to be speaking, as is Cecil Smith, the police chief from Sanford as well. I really like the approach that we and some of the churches have taken, that's saying, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about this, let's work through these issues, let's learn from each other, and let's see what we can do to come up with some solutions, which ultimately I believe is what we all want. And so I think the conversations that we've held, even though they've been difficult at times and provocative at times, have really been helpful in achieving the goal which everybody wants, which is a more diverse, more equitable, more peaceful, more respectful city. So I'm encouraged by the steps forward that many in our community are taking towards that.
Andy, we clearly spend a lot of time together because you stole what was going to be my final points as well. I couldn't agree more. Listener, for you, because I put myself in the shoes of being concerned, maybe a little bit anxious as I drive by there. And it's very easy to look at one or both groups and call them sort of the other, or, just lump a group of people together. And what has been beautiful about the conversations led by the local churches in Casselberry, now some conversations happening with the police. I love what you said about Chief Krantz pulling people together. This real desire, and that's one of the goals of this podcast, is to bring people across different lines together so that we recognize that we're all human beings, we're all citizens of this community, and we all have a collective responsibility of seeking and bringing about the peace and the prosperity. So as easy it is to divide and be divisive, let's not play into that. Instead, let's move towards one another. And we are seeking to do that well. So thank you, Andy. And thank you, Casselberry Police, as well as other citizens who are engaging and bringing about reconciliation. Well, that's as good a time as any to transfer to our next section. Normally, we provide a listener question, and we're going to skip that this week, but instead plug an upcoming segment on our program. We very much desire to highlight and recognize the good things that are happening in the city of Casselberry. And so, Andy, you and I and producer Robin were gathered together recently, and we're talking about, hey, there's just some great folks in our community of Casselberry who are doing some great things. And so we thought, what better way to recognize them than give them a shout out on the pod? So we're going to be looking to do sort of a monthly community member of the month. That's right, a special plug for a community member of the month. So we want to hear from you, our listeners. Who do you know? Who is serving? Who is leading? Who is inspiring others to make our city of Casselberry a great place to live? If you have someone that you'd like to nominate for the What's Up Casselberry podcast community member of the month, let us know. You can do so through our Facebook page, Instagram page, our podcast feed, all with the name What's Up Casselberry. You can go to our website, and under Contact Us, the website is whatsupcasselberry.com. But let us know who you nominate and recommend for the community member of the month. Andy, do you want to make a quick aside on that? You, by the way, you can't win. I'm just letting you know that you cannot.
It's not like the episode of The Office, right, where we can nominate ourselves. No, we wouldn't want to do that. But there are some outstanding folks in our community doing outstanding, thankless tasks. And because so often serving in the community is such a thankless task, I'm really excited to say thank you to some of those folks.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. Let's take a minute to highlight our sponsor for the episode. Our sponsor today and for the past several episodes has been All In Construction. All In Construction is locally owned and operated. They've been around since 2008 in Central Florida. If you are looking to remodel, do a home project, anything regarding your home, check out All In Construction. Their website is allinconstruction.com. Kenzie Lawlathan, who was a recent guest of our podcast, is a member of the community of Casselberry. They are in the Chamber of Commerce in Casselberry and very much have a heart for Casselberry. So check out allinconstruction.com. We'll be back with part 2 of our conversation with some folks from Lake Mary Life magazine.
All right, welcome back, listeners, to part 2 of our interview with Chip and Georgia. Hopefully, as you listened last week, you will have learned a little bit more about the Altamont Wekiva Life magazine and the Lake Mary publishers. We had a fascinating conversation together where we heard all kinds of inspirational stories and heard how this magazine is making a difference in the very fabric of our community. The great news is last week was so full of great content that Chip and Georgia have agreed at no extra charge. We did tell you guys, we're not giving you anything for this anyway, right? To come back once again and continue that conversation. So if you didn't listen to last week, make sure you do. Thank you, Chip and Georgia, for being with us again. Let me jump right in and pick up from last week. You closed by talking about some stories that were close to your heart that you've written about. What are some of those crucial components and vital elements of what makes a great story?
Well, storytelling is such a craft, and that's really the favorite part of all this to me. We really define ourselves at Altamont Wekiva Springs Life magazine and at our company, Lake Mary Life Publishing. We really define ourselves as storytellers, and we're here to tell the remarkable stories of you and your friends and your neighbors who live in these communities that we serve. So what makes a good story? I think part of what makes a good story is the fact that no two are ever alike. Every story is different, and everybody has a unique and different story to tell. So it's always fresh. To us, what makes a good story is, I like to say, the main character is not only hyper-local, but I love it when the main character is just somebody that you would just never expect. That's what we love about the magazine. Georgia talked in the last episode about a woman who's riding cross-country for amazing causes and things, and you just don't even realize that that's your neighbor. Like, that's 2 doors down on your street, right? Or the guy across the street is hiking the Appalachian Trail. My favorite stories was a local business owner. And one of the great things about our magazines is we get to tell the stories of local businesses as well that partner with us for their marketing. And one of my favorite stories was a guy who ran a carpeting and flooring installation company. He was a military veteran and proud to serve veterans. And he was a Cuban immigrant, which I found fascinating. So I wanted to learn about his family. And I remember he told me, he grew up in Cuba as a kid. And he was young, probably about 5, 6 years old. And one day his parents came to him and said, hey, get ready because we're going on a trip and a vacation to the beach in the next couple of days. Of course, any 5-year-old kid would just be excited about that. And then, as we're talking, he tells me, he's like, I just found it so weird that a couple nights later, my parents come in my bedroom at 2:00 in the morning and tell me it's time to go on our vacation to the beach. And he was like, oh, well, okay. I mean, I'm still excited, but it's sort of weird to be going on a beach vacation in the middle of the night. Well, of course, as it turned out, it wasn't a beach vacation they were going on. They were sneaking out in the middle of the night trying to catch a boat to leave Cuba and come to Florida. And that's exactly what they did. And then his dad worked as a laborer to support his family when they arrived, then worked his way up to Central Florida, started his own business. Now he's passed that business down to his kid, right, who's now taking it over and growing it. That's incredible. I mean, it's the kind of stuff they make movies out of, and this guy lives on your street. To us, what makes a great story locally is that some of these amazing stories are so unexpected. You just don't know that they're there right underneath your nose. And that's what gets us jazzed. And Georgia, you write so many more of these today than I get to do. I'm jealous, I have to admit. And you just have such a knack for digging these amazing stories out of folks that you'd never expect. How do you feel when you go into these kind of interviews and get surprised like that?
Well, first of all, I'll say I am not a good interviewer in that I can just spend hours talking to someone. At the end of my interviews, I'm always like, can we write a book? Like, I think we can go all in on a book, but why are we doing just 700 words? But no, I agree with Chip. I feel so fortunate to be in an environment every day that's just positive. And I feel glad that we can produce something and give it to people and say, your turn. Like, please let this uplift you the way it's uplifted all of us in the office. And like every time we go to press, it feels like we're giving a little gift to the community. And it's all neatly wrapped. And I have to emphasize that this magazine, all our magazines are free to the community thanks to the support of all of our advertisers. So that's what makes it possible. But a great story is just, to me, it's one that teaches you, it educates you, it inspires you. And sometimes, I agree with Chip, sometimes they're the most, whoa, like unexpected stories. And then sometimes it's just the feel good, like homegrown stories that I love too. Like I did a story a few years ago, and it was on a small group of older individuals who started a travel group called Conversation Cafe, and they'd meet at Panera in Altamont Springs, and they still do. And I went and I sat with them. I think we started at 7 p.m. and we talked and we talked. Next thing you know, someone pulls up in the parking lot in an RV, and they gave a presentation about what it means to travel in their motorhome and how much it's brought their little family together. And something that it was a couple that was giving this presentation, and they basically said, you know, when we first married, we didn't have a lot of money, but we wanted to travel, we wanted to do things, and we wanted to give that to our children. So they started going around the country in an RV, and I got to hear their story, and I just thought it was so sweet and so sincere. We got to tour the motorhome that they have, and my husband and I ended up basically joining the group somehow. And we go and we've given presentations on our travels. We've gone to some of their homes for Christmas dinner, and my life has sort of been better for it in an interesting way. And those are the kind of stories that, you could say it's just a little group. They just meet once a week. But there's so much there that impacts these people, and they're happy and doing things that they love. The ripple effects of that are huge. So I think stories go way beyond the pages of a magazine, and they just seep into the world and release a lot of good vibes. We do that, and we're in the business of doing that. So I'm proud about that.
I love that. And we can tell just in Andy and I asking you a sentence question, both of y'all have the ability to open and share. I can imagine, though, when you're first engaging with folks that you are interviewing and seeking to share their story, it may be a little bit challenging to get folks to kind of open up. Georgia, maybe there's some folks who are interested in podcasting or writing. What's typically your kind of process and how you engage and get people to sort of open up in regards to a discussion or interview?
Well, I mean, I do always try to be prepared and do my research. So if I have an assignment, I get a sense of their background. So I know I can have some speaking points if it's a little awkward in the beginning or if it's a little slow. But I think what I've learned with people is I try to let the conversation take a life of its own, because if you're too rigid and too by the book with questions, it doesn't feel natural. So I think a lot of times in my interviews, I've learned the power of a good pause. Some people need more time to think and more time to formulate what they're trying to say. So it's not always that they're uncomfortable, they just need time. So I think that's one thing I've learned in my interviews. Don't be too rigid, let it flow, and give people a chance. The pause is very effective, not just interviewing, but just in conversation with people and your friends and anybody you're talking to. It's one of the powerful interview tools.
Chip, would you like to add to that?
One thing to keep in mind that's especially unique for the magazines that we do is the folks that we're talking to and they're interviewing, these aren't celebrities that we're talking to. These aren't folks that are trained in the art of sitting for interviews and that kind of thing. These are, again, I don't even like the term regular people, because everybody we meet is so extraordinary, that we get to interact with in this magazine. But again, they're not celebrities. So the interview process is more of an art for us, because a lot of times you've got to kind of really subtly but purposefully dig in and make sure you get these good stories out of folks, right? Because they all have them to tell, but a lot of folks just don't know how. And the other thing that we run into so often, and we always get a kick out of this at the magazine, is a lot of times the folks that are doing the most good, which are the people we cover and the stories we tell, are the ones who least want the credit, right? So that is a thing that we run into a lot, where we've got someone who's doing an amazing thing for charity or raising money for an incredible cause or has adopted a cause and made it part of their life. And we want to share that story with the community, but often they don't want the spotlight. It's not why they got into it. So it is a little bit of a thing that we have to practice, of being able to go in curious. You have to go in curious. And I tell all my writers that's the only way to start. But making sure you give these folks sort of the space to be comfortable and to come out of their shells a little bit and start telling their stories. And once they get going, they're off and running. But it's a different sort of delicate thing, because we're a hyper-local community magazine versus the Real People magazine. Right?
I love that, because really all heroes are humble, right? And it's that humility that makes them a hero, which makes their stories great, but your job in telling their story even harder. If you could interview anyone in Seminole County, who would you interview? Georgia.
Well, for me, it would be, and I'm not sure I'm saying her name right, Nicole Gillette, or Guillet, the county manager. We do a lot of stories on various aspects of Seminole County. I would just be fascinated to know what her job is like day to day, running the operations of an entire county, and sort of how she has to make decisions in commission meetings. And I think that would be fascinating, because there's just so much there, and she has to have that bird's eye view of what's going on in Seminole County.
We actually interviewed the Casselberry city manager a few episodes back, and I walked away thinking, I don't know what we're paying this guy, but it's not enough, because it was so much. Chip, what about you? If you could interview anybody, who would it be?
Yeah, I've got a good one for you. A very specific Casselberry answer. I am going to have to go Casselberry City Commissioner Anthony Aramindia. That guy, he and I went through Leadership Seminole together and got to be friends. And he is a tremendous guy, and also just a heck of a character. There is no such thing as a boring conversation with Anthony. So anytime I can sit down with him, it's always going to be fun. So we talked to a lot of government folks, a lot of local leaders, but conversation with him would always be a good time.
It is. Drew, we need to have him on the show. He is a great Casselberry representative.
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking of Casselberry, I think that's probably a good segue to the next question I have, at least, is y'all don't necessarily live in Casselberry, but you do business and engage with so many. When you think about Casselberry, when you think about Seminole County, this really is a plug for our community based on this podcast. What makes our county special, in your opinion? What makes our county special here?
Well, like we just talked about, I think we have such a strong foundation of local leaders that when the foundation's strong, it sort of builds a great environment for all of the residents to thrive in. So I think people just, because of that leadership and the decisions they've made to get us where we are today, people love living here. They love the school system. They love its natural beauty. So I think that Seminole County is really special in that way. It's not just because it just happened to be that way. I think it was very thoughtful leadership that got us here.
Chip, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, one thing I'll add is, plug for the school system, right? Because, you ask anybody, hey, why'd you move to Seminole County? Oh, well, I came here for the schools. I think that has so many downstream consequences, because if you're a parent who's moving to Central Florida, like let's say you got a job in Orlando and you're trying to figure out where to live, and you decide, I don't really want to live in the city. I keep hearing that these schools in Seminole County are amazing, and my priority is to live where there are great schools. If that's your decision-making process, then you're probably good people, right? And that's what attracted so many good people, I think, to Seminole County, is they came here purposefully because they were interested not just in themselves and, I want to be 5 minutes from the office or whatever. They came here because they wanted to build a better future for their family and their kids after them. And again, when those are the kind of folks who are moving in, then you're going to build a good community that way. And Casselberry especially has benefited from this. And I think the school system is so good. You know, I met my wife when she was a teacher at Casselberry Elementary School. She was a teacher, a young teacher at Casselberry Elementary School. My mom was working at Casselberry Elementary School as well. And then you can just sort of imagine what happened next. And next thing I know, I was able to meet my wife. Yeah, I just, you know, when you have such great foundations in leadership, like Georgia talked about, in the school system, like we're talking about, good things are going to happen in the community. It's just inevitable. And Casselberry has really benefited from that tremendously, I think.
We love those pandas. We're big panda fans here at the podcast, and I would guess you are as well. So that's good.
Oh, yeah.
2 questions very quickly. The first one, a little cheeky question. I don't know if you can answer. What would it take to change the title of your magazine to Casselberry Altamont Wekiva Springs magazine?
I was thinking the same thing.
With Casselberry in bold, italic, underlined font.
Oh, man, I mean, a very, very heated argument / discussion in the office. I don't want to say argument, but okay. What do you think?
I will tell you that it has come up in conversation in the office. It is something that we have talked about. Now, in all fairness to all the cities that we cover, Altamont Springs, Longwood, and Casselberry, you know, we've kicked around lots of different permutations, right? Longwood, Altamont Life, Longwood, Casselberry Life, Casselberry, Altamont Life. That kind of stuff. So it is something we do talk about. The reason we talk about it, because we have the 4 magazines, Lake Mary Life, Oviedo Winter Springs Life, J Life, the Jewish community magazine, and Altamont Wekiva Springs Life. Those communities, Altamont, Longwood, Casselberry, they're really a diverse tapestry of communities. Each one is sort of very different than the other. So for us, there are a lot of different permutations on what we could call this thing and how we could go. So listen, I can't make any commitments now, but I'll tell you, stay tuned, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, you let us know, because we're ready to advocate. I'm thinking the magazine for Casselberry and the lesser cities around us, something like that. Can we do that? Is that
oh, yeah. That'll go over great. Don't you worry. The folks in Longwood, the folks in Altamont, there's no problem with that at all. Not a problem.
All right. Guys, we have really loved this conversation. It's been incredible to understand more about the magazine, to hear some of the stories of the great things that are happening in our county and our community that you guys are highlighting. It's kind of strange because you guys are one of the great things in our community as well. It's almost like someone should write an article about you guys and tell the great story of the magazine. In closing, how can people connect with the magazine? How can they follow, like, subscribe, all those kind of things?
Okay, well, you can visit lakemarylife.com, and on our landing page, we have all 4 of our sister publications up there. And if you don't receive any of our magazines already, you can sign up for a free subscription to have it mailed to your home every other month. You can also follow us on social media. We have a social media page for every one of our magazines. And we already have over, I think, 11,000 social media followers. And if you have a great story idea or just a story you want to tell with the Seminole County hook, you can email me at georgia@lakemarylife.com.
And you can always get in touch with me, Chip, CHIP, at lakemarylife.com as well. And again, I do want to make one very critical point. Georgia alluded to it earlier. These magazines are not a gift from us. These magazines are a gift, a free gift from the advertisers who support our magazines and who want to reach out to the folks in the community. So if you like what Altamont Wekiva Springs Life is doing, if you like what our company is doing with the positive community news, don't thank us. We love it. We do it because we love it. Thank the businesses that you see in the pages, because they are making these magazines happen and they want to talk to you. They are advertising in these hyperlocal publications because they want to reach out directly to you, and they would love it if you reached out to them. So please support them. That's the best way to support us.
I love it. That's great. Get the magazine for the article and to see who these great sponsors are as well, because they're so important in our community. Chip, Georgia, thank you so much for being with us. I hope our listeners will go to the website, will sign up, will subscribe, and help do their part to write some of these unique stories that are always bubbling up and emerging from our community. Thank you both so very much. Well, Drew, I really appreciate those guys and all that they do to strengthen our community. What a fascinating project. I'd love to work a little bit more with them on discovering some stories and helping sharing some of the stories. As we prepare to close this mammoth and exciting episode, Drew, would you share with us a moment of inspiration?
All right. Our quote for today comes from the late, great Vince Lombardi, famous coach for the Green Bay Packers. And Vince Lombardi said, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." There's kind of a sports analogy there of catching something. All right, let me say it again. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. And I thought that was interesting in two regards. Number one, I felt like that quote was inspirational to show grace to those in your life. No one is perfect. All of us have areas of our lives that can be improved. Life is a journey. It's a marathon, not a point in which we ever truly arrive. So showing grace to one another as everyone is walking along their life path. But I love the idea of for us personally, when we pursue excellence, when we pursue even perfection, we're not going to get to perfection, but we will obtain excellence. And so thought of working hard, and frankly, for me, this was convicting because I feel compelled to model for my family, the community members, my church community, as well as my new son. What does it look like to be a good man, a good citizen, a good husband, father, friend, all these different roles that each and every one of us have, seeking perfection? No, we won't get there, but we will catch excellence. So thank you, Coach Lombardi, for those inspirational words.
And thanks, Drew, for sharing those with us. Friends, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of the What's Up Casselberry podcast, our casual conversation about our community. Huge thanks to our producer, Robin Kepi, for all that she does. But for more information on our podcast, please check out our website, www.whatsupcasselberry.com, our Facebook page, Instagram, podcast feed, all with that same name, What's Up Casselberry. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Please rate us and review us. Please make sure that you tune in next week for some other great content about happenings in our city. Take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.